All right, so what have I been doing right now? Sorry, my hand got in the way. I am currently vlogging. I am shooting this on my iPhone 5. I'm going to see how this compares to my Canon T2i. My nose is stopped up right now. My allergies are kicking my butt. I guess it's because of the weather change. It was like a couple days ago. It was 70 degrees. Now it's like, oh, it went from like 70 degrees to like 20 degrees. So anywho, I'm currently working on a script right now. I'm hoping this one will come together. I have had some bad luck in 2011 and 2012 with a lot of scripts. Just a lot of them just were not coming together. I mean, there was a lot of short scripts that came together, but for the most part, I couldn't really find a story that stuck with me. Right now, I think I have a story that's sticking. I mean, I have the whole treatment written out, so that's a good sign. Whenever I actually have a structure to it where I know where I'm actually going. So I'm got my fingers crossed. I'm about 8 pages into it currently. I'm not going to say what the story is. Yeah, I don't want to jinx the story for myself. So I decided that I'm just going to just talk about my writing process. Now, again, yes, I admit I've had writer's block, but not every day is a bad day for me as a writer. What I pretty much do is I try to write down a structure, like completely. I will write out what's called a treatment, which is basically a very detailed plot about where the story is going to go, how the story is going to go, and all that stuff. So it's a little bit more detailed than just a tagline where it says Joe Schmo went to the bar. It talks about what Joe Schmo did at the bar. It talks about his cast, his feelings, his actions, and all that stuff. So I try to make it about anywhere between 2 to 5 pages. I mean, I don't really. Most of my scripts, the dialogue makes up the majority of the length. So I'm a dialogue heavy kind of person. Now, I during the treatments, I that's where I usually come up with my characters' names. So in this case, my main character. His name is Matt, and I am not very good with coming up with names for characters. I just usually choose the most generic names. I'll come up with a character. Then during the treatment process is when I actually find out more about the character. So I'll boil it in my mind for a little bit to think of where I want the story to go. So before I even sit down, I know where my story is going to kind of lead to when I write down the treatment. So I will write, the main character. I'll come up with the main character's name right then and there. Then I'll be like, okay, his name is Matt. All right, and what's he do? Well, he's an actor. Okay, click, 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 click. All right, that's good. It's good. Another thing you might want to consider doing beforehand is writing out a tagline. Now, some people are like, why? But for me, it's kind of helpful. A tagline is pretty much just a quick summary of what it is. That's where the plot is. So, you can say Joe Schmo found a genie bottle and disaster occurs. That's a good tagline right there. So that kind of gives you, so that way you know where your story's going to go. A lot of people will sit down and write a full script and have no idea where the story is going or no idea what it's about. You don't want to try to pitch a script to someone and then they ask you, hey, what's this story about? And then you pause. You don't want to have that pause. You want to be able to tell them right off the bat. So pretty much, actually, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it. So the script is about a guy who tries to reconnect with some of his old friends in the past. The end. All right. So, you have your tagline, you have your treatment, and during the treatment, that's where sometimes I'll go through like 2 or 3 treatments in order to kind of find a story because sometimes the story is just not ready. I'm one of those guys. I mean, I can come up with a story like that, but actually coming up with a good story, that's a little different. So I will sit down, work it out, and then once I'm happy, once I'm satisfied with it, then I'll go to work on the script. I'll bring it in, and then I'll start working. I'll start working with it. Now, sometimes I don't stick to my structure 100%. That's almost all the time. The reason I do that is just because sometimes through the dialogue, like I tell my story a lot through dialogue. Sometimes it just takes me off a different path. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is a little more interesting right here. So I'll go that route. So sometimes my first draft, by the time it's done, it may be a little, it's not perfect. Clearly, a first draft will never, ever be perfect. So I will, have to go back and revise it like several times. So let's see. I mean, I have a feature length script that I've written. It's about ready to go, and it took me about like 6, 7 drafts before I was finally found that draft I was satisfied with. And even then, I think it's going to need some tweaks. So I'm waiting for that one to kind of simmer a little bit. One of the things I find that's really good for me is after I write a script, let it rest a couple of days, or even in some cases a couple of weeks or a couple of months, because that way you can come back on it with fresh eyes. I mean, if you work on something for too long and too hard, you're going to get blinded by it. You're just going to be all, I don't see anymore. All I see is just words and stuff. It's easier just to let it rest, then come back a few days later or a few weeks later and be like, okay, now I see what's wrong here. Now I know how to fix this. So usually whenever I write the first draft of something, that's what I do. With my feature length script, which is called Our Little Secret, I wrote it, the first draft, which is about 80 pages, in 2010. But the story had been boiling in my head since I was 16. So, see, I'm 24 now. I wrote that when I was like 21, 22. And I've rewrote it many, many times since then. Let's see, I wrote it when I was 21. Yeah, I was 21 when I wrote it. Then I rewrote it when I was 22. And then I kind of just let that draft stay. And then by the time I was 23, I probably did like 4 extra drafts of it. So yeah, that added about a total of 6 drafts total. See, I just turned 24, so more than likely I'm probably going to go back up and touch up on it. But during that time period, I changed so much dialogue. I changed the structure a little bit to where it went from just, it didn't originally, just the story was just kind of bland, but then I managed to spice it up a bit. So, and I'm more satisfied with the way the story is told. It feels more like a cinematic script than just hey, I'm going to just see what I can do. That's why rewriting is good. And a lot of time, in my opinion, it improves you quite a bit. Improves your skill. I mean, it's one thing to write a story, but it's another thing to rewrite a story. Because that's, my opinion, where the actual writing comes in. I have taken a few writing classes, which I recommend. I took a screenwriting class, and my teacher did not want us to use screenwriting software. She wanted us to actually physically build the script in Word. That is difficult, my friends. Very, very difficult. I learned that way. It was pretty cool, and I got used to writing in that format. But when I discovered Celtx, which is a free screenwriting program you can download, it saved me so much time, and it helped me tell a better story because of the fact that I write at a certain speed. So I just, that I would recommend that software to anyone. And I can see my boom mic is in the shot. All right. So I would recommend getting Celtx over using Word. Now, if you're like a novelist, please, by all means, use Word. Or if you're like a comic book writer, you can use Word. I'm not saying don't use Word. I'm just saying what I prefer. I took that class, and I also took just a general fiction writing class, which to any writer, screenwriter, novelist, short story, whatever, I highly, highly recommend it because you learn a lot about other people's writing styles, other people's methods, and what kind of stories people are generally attracted to. I definitely learned like some of my strengths and weaknesses. I mean, I learned that sometimes you're not. I learned that, just going in there and not knowing where the story's going to go doesn't work for me. Now, for some people, it works great. I mean, there are some writers who, they don't write out treatment. All they do is write out character bios, and then that builds their story from there. Hey, whatever floats your boat. For me, I have to have a story. I found out I'm also more character driven because I love dialogue. I love writing dialogue. It's some of the most fun I have writing a script. Other writers, they prefer writing action. You know, some people prefer, movements and subtlety over just yak 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 yak. You know, I grew up watching Tarantino films and Kevin Smith films, so clearly those are my influences there, writing wise. What else? Another thing is just sitting down and actually doing it. Sometimes I am bad at this. I will procrastinate writing just to either like watch YouTube videos or you know get coffee or do something that is of nothing of no significance. I personally I'm trying to get better at that. I mean, because here's the thing: I know I have it in me. I've written, you know, these are just first drafts, but I've written two feature length films. Film scripts. I mean, two feature length film scripts. I have written several shorts. So the fact of the matter is, I don't have an excuse for procrastinating. I need to sit down and write my best because I'm not going to get better if I keep procrastinating. That's just general advice to everyone. You know, write. You know, at least schedule at least maybe a 30 minutes or an hour a day to dedicate to your writing if you're serious about this. I try to at least do it, or at least write once a day. Some days are good days. Like today is a good day. You know, 8 pages, one run. That's great. You know, sometimes it's good for me just to write 3 or 4 pages in one run, but 8 pages, I'm like, sweet. Some days are just bad, or I'm not even able to write half a page, but at least I'm getting something out. So, anywho, yeah, that's pretty much my writing process. I mean, I can show you what I've got so far. I probably need to get me a screen capture software. This is just my treatment. That's not the final title. And this is the working script. And it's about, yeah, this is about 8 pages into it. So, okay, so that's about it. That's my whole writing process. Hope you enjoyed this.